This week's episode of Fireside is brought to you by Legends of Belize and Wonders Oddities Expo.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline. I have a great show planned out for you today. My guest is Heather Taddy. You've seen her on Paranormal State, Alien Highway, Portals to Hell, Mysteries Decoded, and the new YouTube series, Travel the Dead. Before we get to her, just a few announcements.
Legends of Belize is a series about mythical creatures that dwell in the jungles and waters of Belize. The Belizean legends are captured, documented, and preserved like never before in a comprehensive art series and books with fully colored and detailed images of fine art by artists, authors, and award-winning animators Dismas and Grissi G. Discover the supernatural creatures that await deep in the jungles, such as the mysterious dwarf called Tata Duende with backwards feet known to rip the thumbs off of trespassers, or the beautiful shape-shifting woman known to locals as the Ishtabai, who seduces drunks to never be seen again. These creatures and many more can be found in the Legends of Belize books. Learn about the cryptozoological, paranormal, and unexplained creatures that haunt Belize. Be fascinated, be terrified. Belize. Legend of Belize books are available in print and ebook. Buy your copy from your favorite online bookstore such as Amazon, KDP, Apple Books, and many more. Also be sure to visit legendsofbelize.com.
Just a few weeks ago, we had on Micah from Anatolian Press, and we put together a giveaway that we were announcing this week. So the winner of the giveaway for the book Urban Legends, Ghost Stories, and Folklore, the winner is Amy Lynn 747. So we'll be reaching out to Amy and getting her book. If you didn't win, no hard feelings. We're going to be doing more giveaways in the future, and until then, go check out Anatolian Press and see what they have to offer you. The December issue of Paranormality magazine is out now. It has a nice spread out on the show. Make sure you check that out. Also, American Paranormal magazine, their January issue that's going to be featuring West Virginia, is going to have yours truly on the cover. So that's another one you don't want to miss. So thank you very much to those two magazines, Paranormality and American Paranormal. I really appreciate all you do and your support of the show. All right, let's get into this week's featured story. It comes in from Cassandra.
Hi, my name is Cassandra. I'm from Ohio, and I live in a haunted house.
Nice.
Thank you. So this is kind of the story of where I live. My house was built by my family, actually, and they were farmers for generations. So we've been on the same plot of land for quite some time now. Yep. And so on top of there just being family history there's also kind of like I'm surrounded by generators as well. So the plot of land is actually native land.
Okay.
So when I was a child, we would actually go out into the fields and be able to dig up arrowheads and everything like that. So It's confirmed.
Okay.
I also
Did
have.
you see any Native Americans?
I haven't. I mean, possibly. I mean, I wouldn't say that I've seen like a full apparition, but when I was a child, I would like think that I was hearing like drums, for example, coming from the woods.
Yeah, possible.
Very possible. But I was saying I was surrounded by generators. So on top of it being native land, there's actually a limestone quarry right across the street, and a little creek that runs through the back. And I know that that's supposed to be running water. Is supposed to be like a paranormal generator too.
Yeah, so you're like right in the middle. Of
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of crazy.
Oh yeah. So you take that and then you mix it with a little bit of like family history and everything like that. And every day of my life, I have an experience.
Oh, wow.
So the house that I live in now, like I said, was built by my family, but it actually used to be attached to the farmhouse through the gas lines. So I feel like maybe that could also be a contributing thing to why I'm getting so much activity. But when they were building the house, there's actually a small shed in between the two houses that I'm talking about. And it's like maybe like 200-300 square feet, maybe that. And that's actually where everybody lived while they were building the houses. But some experiences that I've had, aside from like the nightly knockings and everything like that, and it just continues to get worse. I don't know what to do about it, honestly.
How is that, like on your walls, on your doors? Do you hear it like in the hallway?
Yes. All the above. But no, we were actually we were just going to sleep right before we left to come to the event, and we actually had a fairly active night, and it's gotten to the point where I just try to like ignore it, because like, what are you gonna do? I've tried to do things like sage and just basic cleansings and everything like that, and it honestly just kind of makes it worse. I don't want to give the wrong impression. I don't think anything that is maniacal, but it's definitely playful.
So it's not trying to hurt you, but definitely keep you awake.
Well, one of the stories of the farmhouse, which I've actually kind of tracked down as to why I think they may be so upset.
Yeah.
So the story is, it's almost exactly like Pet Sematary.
Oh, wow.
So supposedly, and I say supposedly because I've not been able to find any records of birth, death, anything. It's like it never happened. But my grandfather used to have a daughter named Marilyn, and when she was 9 years old, she actually got hit by a semi in a hit and run.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I've had quite a few experiences with what I believe would be her, and I think that's why she is so active, because like I said, like that's a very odd thing for like a family member to like make up and like tell a fellow family member. But like I said, I can't find any birth records, I can't find any death records, I can't find anything. So, like, I don't know if maybe it was, like, possibly one of those stories of, like, let's tell them this, and then maybe they won't do it. But that would be very, very morbid.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. And if you want your story to be one of our featured stories, make sure you send me an email, firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com.
How much do you really know about the paranormal? Can it ever truly be explained or understood? Many say no. I say bet. Hi, I'm Kristen, host of the Paranormal Girl podcast. My show is a binge-worthy, immersive education of the paranormal. Each season, we explore all aspects and angles of a supernatural topic, unraveling its mystery one fact, theory, or personal story at a time. Overcome your fear, celebrate the unknown, and arrive at a well-informed understanding by catching new episodes of Paranormal Girl anywhere you get your podcasts.
All right, I want to get to my guest. Join me by the fire as we welcome Heather Taddy. She is a paranormal investigator. You've probably seen her on Paranormal State, as well as like a million other shows. Heather, are you with us?
I'm here, yeah.
Yay! I'm sorry to summarize it as a million other shows, but I do feel like we would be here for several hours if I just started listing off everything you have done.
Right, yeah. It's been a pretty, very strange journey. Sometimes I ask myself, is this real life? Like what's happened, you know? So, but yeah, I could talk about this subject for a very long time and fill you in on all my adventures. No problem.
Now you started before Paranormal State. You know, that wasn't just something you were thrown into, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember, I've been so fascinated by ghost stories and UFOs. and extraterrestrials. Like that stuff has just always fascinated me for as long as I can remember. You know, I grew up reading about alien abduction cases. You know, I was the girl in my third grade class that was ordering all of the alien abduction books to the point where my teacher started calling me an alien. And then I just kind of went with it and created this like elaborate story that I was this alien that came to Earth to study the fashion trends.
The fashion trends, yeah.
Different. Yeah, yeah. So I was always very different from everybody else. So I kind of went with that story and I stuck with it. And I have just always been intrigued by finding the answers. You know, I think two of the most profound questions you can ask yourself are, is there life on other planets, or have we been visited by extraterrestrials? And, you know, what happens when you die? Is there any kind of afterlife? Because there's so many stories, there's endless stories of things that aren't just coincidence. There's things that line up that it's just like, there has to be something, in my opinion.
And it's funny that those are the two you gravitate towards, because for some reason in the paranormal like world, you're either like an alien guy, a ghost guy, or a cryptid guy. You can't like be all of them, right? And you just glued on, hey, we're going to find out what's out there and then what happens here.
Yeah, because I think, you know, after kind of working in both worlds, you kind of see that there are connections. There's a lot of similarities between the activity. And I used to never, you know, kind of relate the two. I always thought of them as separate. So it's really interesting to try to find those similarities and patterns with each, you know, just classic hauntings versus, you know, UFO abduction cases or UFO encounters. It's very interesting to connect them.
So what, I mean, really, you first dug into the UFO stuff, right? So I'm guessing, you know, you got hooked on like Weekly World News and things like that when you were younger. Did you have that?
Well, I don't remember that, but I do remember coming across old copies of Fate magazine.
Oh yeah.
And I remember just seeing like that classic image of a flying saucer and the classic image of a gray, you know, the cover of Communion.
Yeah.
Like that has just those images have always stuck with me. And yeah, from there, I think, obviously, I grew up reading about Ed and Lorraine's cases. I you know, adored them and loved the way that they investigated. So from there, I kind of became really fascinated with the Amityville horror story.
Oh, yeah.
Just, you know, I didn't grow up in a haunted house and I never had experiences growing up. So my whole thing with joining PRS in college at Penn State was like, I want to be able to gain access to really haunted historical locations so that I could put myself in situations to have experiences, because I wanted my beliefs challenged and I just wanted to be in like a thrilling situation where I had something happen that I couldn't find a rational explanation for. And I've always been fascinated by historical buildings and the past that's occurred there and what energy has passed through. I'm so into architecture and those types of things. So kind of connecting that and using historical evidence to kind of back up what people are currently experiencing, that was always just so fascinating to me.
And, you know, later here in life, then being able to work with your hero. I mean,
yeah.
Really what was that like?
Really incredible, because I remember at Penn State, I've done my first 2 years of college at a branch campus. And I remember Lorraine came and she spoke there. And I remember just being totally intrigued by her. She's such a good storyteller. And, you know, she showed a slideshow of like all of the evidence they've captured from the thousands of cases they've investigated all over the world. They would show the pictures from inside the Amityville house. And I remember just being like, wow, I want to learn more about this.
Oh, yeah. And
then in between seeing her lecture and then transferring up to the main campus to finish my film degree, this is so crazy how this occurred. I was studying for a French test and I sat down at the student lounge, and on the table, the school newspaper was open to this spread about this UNIFCON conference. It was an academic paranormal conference run by this club at Penn State called the Penn State Paranormal Research Society. And they had the Lutzes would speak there, the Warrens, wow. or Lorraine would speak there, Lloyd Auerbach, Chip Coffey, Michelle Belanger was often a guest, Jay and Grant, because this was like a year after their show blew up. So they came to it every year. And I remember being like, wow, there's people near my hometown that are doing this. And it seemed like a really serious club. It like outlined the meetings and, what the club was all about. And I told myself, I kept the article. I still have it to this day. I should actually frame it.
Right. I was getting ready to say, do you have it framed?
Oh yeah. I don't have it framed. I have it in a folder. I should show people this.
Yeah.
I do these podcasts.
You should take it on, like, when you do the presentations at conventions and stuff. That's that's fun.
I should, but yeah, it was just such a cool article. And I was like, wow, I can't believe, I just told myself that the next year when I transferred, I was going to join the club, and I did. I knew nothing about a television series. I joined and I started the training process to become a field investigator, which was a very tedious process. It was like adding another class onto your curriculum.
Yeah.
Like, you had to do research reports. You had to study famous cases. You had to read a lot of books about, certain elements of the paranormal. But overall, when I think back to it, it made me very well-rounded, studying all of that. And it was something I was so passionate about, that I just kept going. And it had like a really high dropout rate. And like me, Katrina Weidman, and like one other person were the only like ones that actually passed out of like so many people that, that were already in the club that were trying to train as a field investigator.
Now, was the show already going at the time? Like, or was this something that happened before the show?
So I joined the club in 2006, and I had not known this, but 2 years prior was when the club got discovered by this Emmy award-winning producer, and they were in the process of documenting the club's investigations helping families. So I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And it was like the sixth meeting in, there was just like a producer in the room. I was like, oh, there's a new guy here. And he had this like stack of pamphlets, and they were having auditions for people to try out to, be on this TV show where they would follow the club around on weekends, going to these haunted locations and actually helping families. So I, of course, was like, yeah, sign me up. Like, I want to be able to go to these historical places. Like, hello.
Right.
So I filled out this pamphlet, and I was very focused on school. I was a very good student. I loved being in school. Like, I loved college. It was such a weird thing. Like, I loved being a nerd and reading and studying. So when it came to trying out for this, I went to the audition, and, at the time I was definitely that girl that was in it for the thrill of it. My hair was always crazy. I was wearing like ridiculous clothes. I was in this experimental rock band. So I think producers really thought I was like different. So they were like, yeah, we need this girl, and she's so passionate about it. And I had a film background too. So my role on the show, my main role was the Team Documentarian. And so I kind of caught all the action behind the scenes that the television cameras couldn't. And they would use that stuff in the show, and then like for the behind the scenes.
That's really, now I got to ask about the band.
Oh yeah. So I, at that time I was in a band called Heavy Radio with my cousin Heather Taddy. And the best way to describe it, so our influences were Tool, Jane's Addiction, and Ministry. So, and we were also really into like, kind of like hippie folk music, like jam bands and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a combination of all those things. So it was very experimental and weird.
That's fun. I'm a musician too. So
are you?
What do you play? Do you sing?
Well, I play the bass, but I grew up playing the violin, but the
Nice.
bass is definitely my main instrument.
Nice. I'm a hand drummer, percussion.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's cool because I grew up learning West African drumming, like djembe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was like from our Heavy Radio experimental band. We had this side project that was called With Chords and Wireless, and we would play acoustic at different coffee shops, and our drummer would play a djembe. So fun fact.
So fun. It's a fun instrument.
It is. It's super fun.
It'll go anywhere. It'll do anything. Mm-hmm. Good job.
Yeah, it gets people dancing. It gets people grooving.
Good job, djembes.
Yeah.
Now, I think it was after, I want to say, because I had a show prior, I hosted a show called Whispers.
Okay.
I started back in like 2008-ish. And I think I remember seeing Lorraine. I want to say it might have been on Paranormal State. Mm-hmm. If you guys were rolling then, I feel like I saw her on TV, and I was like, gosh, that's not even far from us, because, where you live, you're like an hour, right? So I was like, I wonder if she'll come on our show. And I looked it up, and it was the craziest thing, because she's the sweetest lady in the world. I just looked up a number and randomly called. I was like, let's see if we can book her, right? And I get on their website and I call it, and she picks up the phone.
Yeah.
Like and I was not prepared for that. Like, because, this is Lorraine Warren, you know what I mean? Like the biggest name, like in everything paranormal.
Right.
So I'm like expecting to have to jump through hoops and everything. And she's like, hello. And I'm like, hi, and we end up talking for like an hour, just like talking. And then she's like, okay, well, I love you. And I was like, I love you too, Miss Lorraine Warren. It's the craziest thing ever. Sorry.
That's such a cool story. Yeah, she was incredible. Like I can just picture, I can hear her right now saying, hello, honey. Like,
oh, there was like, she was talking about her curtains for a while. I think we heard like chickens in the background. Like she
had pet roosters. She had 2 of them.
It was a lot of fun. It was awesome. I loved it. It was one of the highlights. I still like throw that episode out to people. I was like, you got to listen to this. I talked to Lorraine. It was the coolest thing ever. I love that. All right, let's get back into paranormal stuff. So you start off this UFO, obsessed person, and you jump right into ghosts. Was there a triggering incident that really said, you know what, I really have to dig into this. I have to, I got to find out what's going on. I'm going to buy a recorder and a flashlight and just go for it. Was there like something that happened to you that really sparked that? I know there was the class, but I'm talking like in here.
Well, yeah, I mean, before my college years as a young teen, I was really fascinated by the Ouija board, and I would get together a bunch of my friends and we would go to supposedly haunted locations and we'd take a Ouija board and we'd have Ouija board sessions, and then I'd have my camcorder and I'd be filming it, and we would just do anything we could to try to get something to happen. And I never had a really scary encounter or anything, but I had an encounter where I was playing it with my cousin, and it revealed, we thought we were talking to our grandmother that we were close to that had passed away, and it had revealed some really private family information that we didn't know. And then we went to our moms. It told us one word, and we were like, why did it tell us this? So we went to our moms, and they were just in disbelief, like, there's no way you would have known that. We're super private, that this was something that happened to our grandmother. There's no way. So I think from then on, I just kept playing it. And I was just really fascinated by, to use it as a tool for communication, and really fascinated by the mythology around it and everybody's like really negative views towards it and how everybody has a story. And I would go to these, haunted abandoned locations in my hometown in the middle of Pennsylvania and drag my friends along, and, we'd try to just catch evidence. And there were times when cops would catch us being places we weren't supposed to be, and then they would like search my car and see a Ouija board, and then automatically they would go into this hour-long story about their experiences with the board. So it's just like endless stories about Ouija boards. So that I got really heavily involved in that, and I would steal my older brother's Ouija board. I would eavesdrop on him and his friends when I was super young, and they were doing their Ouija board sessions. So it was always something I was really fascinated by, and I love the different variations of it and the artwork. And then from there, I had a little Panasonic micro cassette recorder with like the little micro cassettes. Yes. And I used that all through Paranormal State until it broke. But I would just, anywhere I could go, I would just try to get EVPs and try to catch something, because I wanted proof. I wanted to know, what's on the other side. I wanted those answers.
Now, do you still go out and investigate like things like that? Do you go out like by yourself in these abandoned places with your Ouija board and your recorder?
Not so much by myself. Well, I don't just go by myself anymore. I usually go for a show or for an event, and then I'll go off on my own at some point. I definitely always do that, because I always like to immerse myself in the space alone for a long time before I even investigate. So I do still do that. I don't really play the Ouija board much anymore. I still have some, but I don't really. I think one event I did this year, I took it and we tried, but nothing really came of it. But I'm still always thinking about the Ouija board and kind of thinking about how all my experiences when I was young kind of led me to what I'm doing today. It's just so weird to think about.
Kind of full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you feel, because using the Ouija and things like that, do you feel like you are sensitive or psychic or anything like that?
I don't, and I know, my psychic friends always say everybody has the ability, you just have to open yourself up. I've never really been able to do that, but I do have the ability to kind of be in a space and feel the energies in a way, not knowing like detailed information, but just kind of knowing that like something bad happened in this room. Like I can pick up on vibes of rooms from doing it for so long. I have that ability, and I'm super observant. I always seem to notice things other people don't notice. But as far as like being psychic, I wouldn't say I have that ability. I haven't been able to like work it.
You never know. You could like trip and fall and like stub your toe, and it could unlock.
Yeah.
I see your aura. I don't know how it works. I'm not a psychic. Yeah. So, is the Penn State crew? Do you guys still investigate together?
No. So I left Paranormal State after season 4, and then they did another season and a half. I left, and then I think they continued, and then everything kind of fell apart. And then I don't know if there's. I heard that there is still a group, but obviously it's none of the original people because we've all moved on and graduated. But I think that there is still a group at Penn State, but I'm not like 100% positive.
Do you still keep in contact with everybody?
I keep in contact with almost everybody. Yeah. Obviously Michelle, Katrina, and I've worked with her in Travel the Dead, and I worked with her in Portals to Hell. Definitely Chip Coffee. Josh Light, I keep in touch with him. Elfie, Sergi here and there. Katrina, obviously, yes. Chad Kalick, I still work with him occasionally. But yeah, I pretty much, we all keep in touch. No one talks to Ryan anymore, basically. No one really communicates with him. But yeah, pretty much everyone else I still, I'll reach out to here and there.
That's cool. So there's still like that camaraderie stuff. Mm-hmm. That's good. Now, is everybody, and just forgive me for my lack of knowledge with this,
oh, that's okay.
Do they still? I know as far as Chip goes, but do they have their own shows anywhere? Do they try to get involved with the paranormal scene?
So out of the whole crew, well, Katrina obviously is still doing her thing, and we have a project together again. Michelle, she's still she was still guest starring on Portals to Hell. I'm not really sure what else she's doing. She might be writing something new. I'm not really sure. As far as like Elfie and Sergi, I don't really think that they're doing any like TV projects or anything that I know of. I'm not really sure. I haven't talked to them in quite a while.
Now, you did talk about writing. Are you going to write anything?
I have been in the process of writing a book.
Yeah?
Actually. But yeah, I've had ideas for shows. I've tried out for other shows. I've been asked to do shows for like History Channel, Fox, and but not the two other ones I've interviewed for this year. I think that they went with someone else. But I have ideas. The thing is, like, I think sometimes it's tough with the TV networks and the paranormal, because I think the paranormal goes through certain waves. And sometimes I think things at the network get kind of crazy to the point where they don't know what kind of shows they're looking for. So I don't really try to pitch shows. I did at one point, but nothing really came of it. But I think with me and Katrina doing our project on YouTube called Travel the Dead, I think our goal with that is to try to just keep going with that and have more control over it, where, we don't have to rely on a network. We can just do it all ourselves.
I was going to say, with that show in itself, you're complete control over what you want. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what's it like? And I've always wondered, backstage, when the cameras are off, what's it like on a show like that? Because, you watch them on TV, and I know they're just little clips of hours and hours and hours of footage that is filmed. So
yeah.
What kind of stuff happens that we don't see?
Well, I've been so lucky because all the shows that I've been on, the production crew has been completely amazing. Everybody gets along, everybody hangs out usually. And the cast that I've done different shows with, everybody has such a great sense of humor, and everybody's kind of goofy in a way. So when the cameras are off, we're just like joking about things and just really having fun, especially like Alien Highway. Me, Chuck, and his son, Dan Zukowski, we, when the cameras are off, we were constantly singing. We were constantly playing pranks on each other. Same with Paranormal State. Like, like, I know on most of the shows it portrays me as being like super serious and professional, and I am on camera. That's just kind of naturally when a camera's on, I'm just kind of like that when I'm dealing with this subject. It's just the way I am.
All
But
business all the time.
yeah, so then off camera, it's just like it's completely different. Like we're total goofballs, but it's there's a lot of different stuff. I'm trying to give you like a specific example, but I know on Paranormal State we were constantly like Katrina and I were definitely always playing pranks on everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were always playing pranks. I can't really think of some specific examples, but
Now, like, as far as the pranks go, were you like throwing in some fake EVP stuff to try to mess with people? What kind of pranks were you pulling?
no, nothing like that. Just really weird things. Like I remember one time we were staying at a hotel somewhere and we got a hold of Ryan and Sergi's hotel key and we went into their room when they were like out and rearranged all the furniture like as if it was like that scene in Poltergeist when everything's on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
We did that. We took all this time doing it and then they didn't really react to it. We didn't really see their reaction personally, but just little things like that. Just stupid.
Did they ever bring it up?
I don't remember. It was so long ago. I can't even remember.
Like all this crazy stuff happened. They're like, anything interesting happened to you last night? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Not at
I
all.
think they just automatically knew because that's just something that, we would do. It's expected of us, I guess.
Now, want to talk about some of the shows you've been on. I know you've kind of highlighted a few of them. Tell me about these shows. Like, tell me about Alien Highway. What's it about? What do you do? Because that's about a book, right? Kind of based off.
Yep. Alien Highway is based off of a New York Times best-selling book called The 37th Parallel, which is all about Chuck Zukowski's life in working in this field. And he's definitely a specialist when it comes to animal mutilation cases. He's kind of like the expert on that.
Wow.
So it talks a lot about that, and it talks about his theories of how, along the lower latitude line of the U.S., the 37th parallel, all of these things seem to occur. It's where a lot of Native American burial grounds are. It's where a lot of UFO sightings, a lot of military bunkers, and then a lot of animal mutilation happen. Animal mutilations happen along this line. So the series Alien Highway is based off of, Chuck being this investigator. He was a former police sheriff, and he got fired for his paranormal leanings on a cattle mutilation case. It was actually a horse mutilation case, and he got fired from the department. So it's kind of about his passion for, finding answers and taking this stuff very seriously, because there are so many cattle ranchers that, third generation cattle ranchers that know what they're doing, and they experience their cattle dying in really mysterious and odd ways, and there's no explanation for it. And while this happens, they just so happen to see UFOs, weird lights in the sky. Sometimes they'll go into their ranch houses and they'll experience what would be considered paranormal activity. So I think it's all seems to be linked in some way. So the show highlighted how we traveled to, hot spots where, back in history, there was a lot of UFO sightings, and now decades down the road, there's UFO flaps where the things are continuously happening. So we would go to places like Sedona and explore the theories of the vortexes. Is that causing this phenomena, or is the phenomena attracted to the energy, coming from these vortexes? We did an episode on, of course, animal mutilations in the Midwest. We did an episode on the amount of sightings off of the coast of Southern California and how people see craft going in and out of the ocean. And of course, we talked about the whole Tic Tac incident.
Yeah.
But really, Alien Highway was about just talking to these regular people that would have these like really life-changing experiences. We talked to American airline pilots who had incredible experiences that are documented, and they would be afraid to come out with their story for fear of being fired, for reporting this. But it was cool. It was a really cool show, and my favorite part was the way that we investigated, because Chuck had all these different ways. Like he had this binary light system that we would flash to the sky.
Oh wow.
He had a lot of really interesting experiments, and it was kind of fun to take a break from investigating in little closed spaces to being like out in nature and thinking about environmental factors and how that can contribute to the activity. So it was Alien Highway was a really fun series to work on. It's a total bummer that we didn't get a second season. We were pretty much on our way to a second season, but things switched at the network and there was a new general manager, and then one of our producers that pushed for us got fired. So maybe all that prevented us, but it was a lot of people liked the show. You know, I still do events and people were like, why do you guys get a season 2? But I think they liked the way that we just went into it real with our investigations. Like we took it seriously and we just went and tried to figure out, you know, what these people were experiencing.
And it is such a different experience, you know, going from like ghost hunting to, you know, UFO research. You know, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it was crazy. I found myself taking like soil samples and water samples, and it was interesting. I really learned a lot.
I bet.
Yeah, Chuck was really cool to work with. You know, he was he's like a microchip designer. That's his day job. And so it was really cool to hear how he would analyze a lot of equipment that ghost hunters use. And he would kind of dissect it and be like, it works like this, and they're using it wrong. So I really enjoyed learning a lot. I learned a lot from him.
That's neat. That's neat. Now, doing like the animal mutilations, well, not doing the animal mutilations, but it's a whole different show. Investigating that stuff. What about like Skinwalker Ranch? Did you ever go out that way?
Oh yeah, you better believe I went out there.
Oh, you got spill some tea here.
So we obviously couldn't go on the ranch because I think at that time it was when Brandon Fugel had took over, and they were actually working on their new show, the Skinwalker Ranch show that's on now. They were working on it. So we didn't get access to the ranch, but that whole area, the Uinta Basin, you don't have to be on the ranch to have experiences. There's, you know, we've talked to people that have lived there all of their life outside of the ranch, and they see things. And we even went and saw things for ourselves. Like we kind of, for our night investigation, we planted ourselves in this small cemetery that was right at the back of the cemetery was the ridge that you would climb up, and then that was the ranch.
Oh, so wow. So you're right on the other side.
Yeah, and this was a place where people have had experiences, and it was near this other place where one of our witnesses had an intense experience. So we decided to do our night investigation there, and I will never forget this. We saw halfway through the night, the sky started like pulsating orange.
Oh, wow.
And there was almost this like white tube that looked like a doorway above this. And we had one of our other investigators was over on that hill with the camera guy, and there was no light source over that mountain or on the other side, because the other side was literally the ranch. And in that area, way off in the distance, way far away, they burn oil. There's a lot of, I don't know the name of that. I just know that they're burning oil, and you can see the flames, and you can see like what looks like almost like lightning, orange lightning. And this was like completely different, because when this started happening, I was like, oh my gosh, yesterday we got close to where they were burning the oil, and it made the sky kind of light up. But this was a very different way. And this is something people have reported all along. So seeing that was crazy. It happened like 4 or 5 times. And when you watch the episode, you can see my reaction being like so confused as to what it was, but yet being so amazed that, you know, we were seeing the sky just light up out of nowhere. And you know, I don't know if it could have been any kind of natural thing, because it was snowing a little bit. The sky was super overcast, but I don't know what that would have been lighting the sky orange. I still don't know what it was, but
that's crazy.
Yeah. When we were there, we talked to different Native American tribes in that area from I think it was the Ute tribe. And, you know, the whole idea of a skinwalker is very taboo, and they don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, and they have, you know, in their language, they've had terms for Bigfoot and aliens like since the beginning, you know. So, obviously they have had a lot of experiences, and it was really cool. We interviewed a Native American elder, and this didn't make the episode, but he told us he saw a craft not far from his house. Like he opened his door and he could see this craft, and it emitted a red light, and multiple neighbors saw it. And he claimed that 2 weeks after this incident, he felt what felt like electrical sensations like through his whole body. And he went to the doctor and they couldn't like explain what it was. But I mean, they have so many stories, and I really enjoy, like, part of Alien Highway, we worked with so many different Native Americans, and I loved working with them and hearing their stories about it, because they know the land, you know, they've heard so many stories from their ancestors, and I think it just all ties together. But Skinwalker Ranch in the Uinta Basin is definitely a very fascinating place.
Now, did you know, of that season where you were just deep in investigating this stuff, did you have any UFO experiences there? Or were you going off of stories?
I did in Sedona. I actually saw, there's this place called Bradshaw Ranch that is kind of another area like Skinwalker Ranch,
Okay.
where it used to be a Western movie set. Like Elvis filmed a movie there back in the day. And it's like right outside of Sedona. And the original owners, I think it was the Bradshaws, Bob Bradshaw, he like was a Hollywood stuntman, and he owned this ranch, and him and his wife had all these insane experiences there, much like what you would experience at Skinwalker Ranch. So we went there, and above the ridge line, it was almost, was it dusk? I can't remember the exact time of day, but I think it was just getting dark, but we saw, it looked just like a planet had, popped up in the sky. And we saw it, and it was red. And within like 1 to 2 seconds, it just disappeared. And there was no cloud coverage. Everybody saw it, and we were like, what was that? I think we even got it on film, but that's something that sticks out to me. Other than that, I know I've had more experiences, but I'd have to go through the episodes and see.
It's tough when you've had so many.
I know. That's why I have these like notebooks of every like episode, so I have notes so that I can like refer to, because I can't keep all of this.
No, that's great.
It's easy to forget some of it.
Oh no, I'm with you. Like, and this is like on the podcast side, right? I've been doing shows since early 2000s.
Right.
They're like, people will give me guests, and I'll be like, I've never heard of them in my life, and then I'll like go through some of my old shows, and I've had them on like twice, and I'm like, how? Like, I've sat and talked with these people, and I'm like, I have no clue who they are. It's
That's
horrible.
funny.
Yeah, I have horrible memory.
What was really cool too with Alien Highways, we use these really high powered like military binoculars, like night vision binoculars, and it was so fun looking through them and just seeing things. Like we would see things that would kind of move. I think in Missouri was one place where I had another experience where the sky was so clear and you could see the Milky Way. It was like amazing. And we would see this light that would kind of like, it kind of moved like a satellite, but it didn't. It would like completely stop and stay stationary.
Oh, yeah?
And then it would just move in a weird way. And I could see this through the binoculars. And Chuck would have this like strobe light system on the top of his truck that he would like flash to try to get this thing to like react. But yeah, it was definitely fun doing that show.
Did you ever get a reaction? Like him flashing the lights?
Not from that one, but there is a place that I went to on Paranormal State. We did an episode there called First Contact, and the ranch, it's called the ECETI Ranch. Do you know about ECETI? Oh, okay. So there's this guy named James Gilliand, and he is this like new age hippie guy that had a near-death experience. I think he was like body surfing a long time ago, and ever since that experience, he claims he can communicate with these entities. And he had this vision about this land in Washington State that he ended up purchasing, and it's the ranch. It's called ECETI Ranch, and scientists go there to study it.
Really?
I don't know if they've actually figured out what these lights are, but when we went, it really blew my mind, because we would see these crafts like shoot across the sky. They would actually cruise across the sky really slow. They would stop, and then they would just zoom off. And we saw them multiple times when we stayed there. And James would have this high-powered military flashlight that he would blink, and he would be like, they'll power up for you. He would flash it, and whatever this thing was would light up super bright. Like it could not have been a satellite. And we had this, it was really cool because we had this satellite tracking software, and we had someone kind of manning it and telling us like what direction satellites were and when they would appear in the sky, so we could kind of rule that out. And we would see these lights, and it it's just unbelievable. Like, I don't know.
Just
what it
them
was
reacting alone back to your light. Oh.
Insane. Like, we all felt like we were like little kids. Like, it was just so fun, being in this beautiful area, and it's right at the base of Mount Adams. And I think that there's a lot of speculation with like Bigfoot sightings in that area too.
There's a lot.
But it's a really interesting place. If you ever get to go there, you can camp there and everything.
When you look back at like all the shows and experiences, because you did Portals to Hell, and like you've done all this, like are there any experiences, like is there one that like sticks out, like this is the craziest thing that I've ever experienced? In all of my let's face it, you have a lot of experience doing investigations.
Oh man, there's a lot.
To single out one, like that was an easy question, right? Are there a few? You can name a couple if you got them.
For me, okay, so let's start with Paranormal State. So for me, working on that show, it was really fascinating to kind of rule out all the psychological things that people would go through. Like, we would really be in really haunted houses with like really historical, unique history that had like layers and layers of dark things that would continuously happen there. And these families would have no idea like what they were experiencing, but they would be just scared out of their mind. And I remember one time, one thing that always freaked me out was when we worked with children, and children would see the spirit of someone that a previous resident, and they would be able to describe them and say things that kind of related to their life that there would be no way they would ever know. They wouldn't have any knowledge of this. And it always freaked me out when someone would have an experience where they would see an apparition and be able to perfectly describe it. And then we'd bring in a former descendant of that ghost that they thought they were seeing, and they would show the Cline a picture, and they'd be like, that's the person I'm seeing. Like, out of a whole lineup of people, they would point it out. And the history and the personality of that person would match up with what they were experiencing. That always freaked me out, especially with kids, when they would just be able to know stuff and have that ability. So that kind of really stood out to me. And, in Paranormal State, we worked on like a very diverse variety of like cases, to where, I'm trying to think of specific. This is like the worst question to ask me, because I'm like, "Ooh, should I talk about this?" No, this is more interesting. I should talk about this.
Me personally, I want to hear all of them.
Yeah. Maybe I could think of a more recent one. So let's take, for example, the Lake Shawnee episode I did on Portals to Hell. We investigated this amusement park in West Virginia, in Princeton, West Virginia. You probably know all about it. But one really unique incident we had was Jack and I were hanging out by the swings, where this little girl, we had documentation that this little girl had died when a soda truck backed up into her when she was on the swings, and she had passed. She, smashed into the truck and died. And this was one apparition that the owners would constantly see, and people that would go there would see it and everything. It seemed to be one of the more prominent spirits there. And we were just hanging out by the swings. And I remember we had like cotton candy and we had balloons we were throwing back and forth. And he threw a balloon and it fell down behind me. And the camera angle couldn't get it. And people were like, it just fell on the ground and popped. But it popped in midair, like at the top of kind of behind my boots. It just like popped in midair. And I don't know, sure, it could be maybe something with the temperature. I don't know. We did it a couple times, but the balloon popped. And then in that instant, we had the REM pod set up near the swing. And it was almost as if something popped the balloon, and then it just ran through and lit off the REM pod. And the REM pod, it just wasn't like a subtle, like it was lighting up. It was like on, like something was triggering it. Something had to have been touching it. And we were all super far away from it, that nothing was interfering with it. And that was kind of like one of the more recent things that have happened that I've just tried to wrap my brain around, tried to figure out an explanation for, and just kind of couldn't.
Does it frustrate you when you have an experience like that stands out so much, and like sometimes like it might play out on TV, just kind of real small, and people are like, it could have been this or that, but like it was so meaningful to you?
Yeah, all the time. And it's funny because it's funny to see people's comments and things on certain episodes and experiences when it's just hard with TV because not everybody's obviously seeing everything.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that's still on the cutting room floor that doesn't get used that a lot of times I'm like, why weren't the story editors putting this in? Because it makes this activity we experience more legit. Like, so it's frustrating when you don't have that control and you don't know what they're going to use. But it's just funny to read the comments and people are like, it would have done that. Like, they're trying to explain it. And I'm like, you don't even know.
You weren't even there.
You weren't there, Like, let me talk about it. Like, I was there, if it's, I'm super skeptical too. Like, a lot of people don't realize that, but there's so many things I think that get deemed paranormal that are just normal experiences maybe we're not used to. There's just so many things that can trigger this stuff to happen that it's explainable. And I'm still pretty skeptical when it comes to a lot of stuff.
All right. So now that you have control over your own show, with the last few minutes we have, let's hear about this show. Why should everybody go out and check it out and subscribe to your channel? Tell us what it is. Tell us about it.
So it's actually on Katrina Weidman's channel, and it's called Travel the Dead. We have one episode out so far, and it's just very real. It's just two best friends. We went on this crazy TV journey together on Paranormal State, and we were just kind of thrown into all these wild experiences. And now it's us doing this for fun and not doing it under a network and not being told we have to talk about this and this. It's just us picking the places we want to go. Katrina gets like lists and lists. We both get lists of places where, people want us to go and investigate. So being able to like have access to these places with just us and one other girl that we're working with that's filming us, and then we film ourselves as well. So just being able to kind of make sure there's not extra people there. It's just us and kind of doing it our way and doing things we know to like basically investigating in unique ways to elicit responses. Because I feel like a lot of times people rely too much on the equipment when we all know there's no scientifically valid equipment that can prove or disprove that ghosts exist. And people, they have their cell phones and they're using these apps and stuff, and it's fun and it's entertainment, but you can't let that dictate your investigation. So we're just trying to really think of different, unique ways to investigate. And, our first episode was at White Hill Mansion, and it was really unique because I went into it, first of all, not knowing the location we were going to and not knowing any of the history. And I honestly had never even heard of this place before. And it was just really cool to kind of use my abilities to just kind of go in and see if I can pick up on, the feelings I get in certain rooms and see if it relates to Katrina's experiences. She's been there multiple times. So just trying to think of like out of the box ways to, utilize what we learned on Paranormal State and just kind of use that to investigate really cool places.
Now with Travel the Dead, how far do you go? Do you stay around PA, or are you cross country, cross world?
We started filming in over COVID. It was like fall of 2020. So we kind of kept it within close to PA, because we both live in Pennsylvania. So we kind of started that, but we're getting requests from like all over the world too now. So we're really going to try to find funding to kind of be able to go to those faraway places and unique locations. But yeah, we've just been kind of sticking around within driving distance from where we live so far. So
very fun. All right, check that out. Travel the Dead. Make sure you get it. Now, is that the YouTube channel name, or is it under her name?
So
Katrina's.
It's under Katrina Weidman. And then you'll see it on there. I don't think we have a separate, it's under her page.
Now, we'll go subscribe to it now. It's worth your time.
Yeah. And we'll have a new episode coming out, within the next like 2 months. So
how often do you put out new episodes?
Well, we've had some hiccups, with it. Some things are kind of beyond our control because Katrina was still doing Portals to Hell, and that kind of interfered. So there's certain things we kind of couldn't do on our own. So our first episode came out, my gosh, I want to say last fall of last year.
Okay.
It premiered. I can't even remember, but we filmed a total of, I think 5, and we're working on getting the next one released within like the next 2 months. We're still editing it and everything.
Very cool. Heather Taddy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. I definitely want to have you back on I mean,
Yeah,
especially
totally.
since you're right down the road,
Yeah.
you know. Thank you. We will talk again, and you have yourself a great night.
You too. See ya.
Bye. And with that, the fire is out. Thank you so much, Heather Taddy. Thank you, all of you, for listening. I appreciate y'all so much. If you haven't had the opportunity to connect with me online, Fireside Paranormal Hub on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at Fireside Parapod. That's Parapod. I want to give another big congratulations to Amy for winning the giveaway. Patreon is another thing that we do. Don't miss out on all the extra audio. Every week we add the behind-the-scenes after-interview conversation. This week's conversation with Heather was really neat. She had some more stories that she wanted to share with us. You can also get the interview-only section of the show, so be sure to check that out. Patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. If you want to get that sweet, sweet Fireside merch, you get that new Krampus t-shirt just in time for the holidays. Go to firesideparanormal.com, select the merch tab. It'll take you right to all the designs we have. But remember, the Krampus design is only for the season, so be sure to check that out while you can. And that is all the time we have for this week. So until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.